Deutsche Bank X-Tracker US is a Rand-based JSE-listed instrument which tracks the MSCI USA 600 index. It reflects the performance of the US dollar and the underlying performance of the 600 largest US corporations. It has a market cap of 283 million Rand. I'm getting more and more excited about this passive overactive. I think if I give up my job, this is what I'm going to start doing.
Look, the American one is now, we're talking about the big elephants. By market capitalization, the largest multinationals typically in the world, and it's heavily weighted towards those big companies like ExxonMobil, IBM, Apple, you know, the ones that really everybody knows and which are one-stop shop. Healthcare is significant in there, so it doesn't suffer from the same kind of sectoral over-focus that some of those other indices.
So you've got widespread exposure here to solid blue-chip companies across the US.
Correct, but you're buying the whole thing. So you're buying all of the technology companies, you're buying the bump financials, you're buying the consumer companies, and some of them are doing well in the US, others are doing well internationally.
For me, such great diversification.
But the problem for me is that you're not avoiding the parts of the exchange you don't want to own.
Viv?
Yeah, and also it's not just the US. You know, US market is the global market effectively. So you look at a company like Apple, it does a lot of sales in China, it does a lot of sales in Africa. I bought one today. So we have a lot of international revenue coming through from this company. So
they may be domiciled in the US, but their revenue is garnered from around the globe.
That's very true.
Effectively what's happening.
That's very true. And at the same time, the US economy is growing best of among all the developed economies in the world. Certainly outperforming the Europeans as well as the Japanese and the UK market as well. So the Americans, even though people complain, the Germans are doing better after the recession, etc. The Americans, despite the recent jobs numbers we've been seeing, are doing quite well compared to the others of the developed world.
This just seems like the best solution ever for a retail investor who doesn't know the US universe or any of the other indexes that we've spoken about and is saying, listen, I want exposure here.
Yeah, I buy that. But remember my point earlier about how these things don't give you anything that you don't have outside of the country. So my point to people is if you want international diversification of investments, you must go and get your exchange control approval. You must find and open an account offshore and you must buy shares that you like.
But no. Don't you are getting that offshore international exposure beyond the US. The point we've just made now is that they may be domiciled in the US, but they have exposure geographically.
No, but my point is you can only ever buy these things and a couple of months later sell them and get your rands back. So it's not proper international diversification. It's not like you can phone your broker.
Is it not proper international diversification? Let me get Viv's point here.
Look, the differential is, as Paul mentioned, you're not getting dollars in exchange for your currency at the moment. But the issue is, why would you want dollars instead of rands right now? You're going to be living in South Africa. Unless you really believe you're going to turn into a very negative situation, in which case you're looking at a Zimbabwe kind of meltdown of the economy, etc. The argument for taking your currency internationally is not quite as strong as that. I do think if you're looking as a local investor, you want to have your money in rands. You're going to be spending rands probably till the day you die, and that's where you want your money to come back into eventually.
Well,
hot or not on DBX US?
Because, we all have kids now. We're living in an international world. People want to go. The next thing your children want to study at a university overseas, what you're going to do? Organize your money at whatever the exchange rate is. I think people need to be looking at globally diversified investments.
All right. So I go back to hot or not on DBX US.
Of all the markets, I like the US the most, but I don't like this instrument.
Hot or not on DBX US?
I'm hot in the US, definitely.
You're hot.